inviting glimpse into what language can do for us. And I would point out that, everything that you've said, Jason, I agree entirely with it. I think that it would be a mistake to say that we all have to use language in exactly the same way in all cases, right? I mean, obviously language, particularly English, is capable of molding itself to different scenarios and different contexts and different situations, and that's one of its great merits, and that should be fully exploited by us. So if you're writing a pamphlet for public consuming, that obviously consumption, excuse me, that's obviously different than if you're writing lyrics for a song, Jared. If you're writing, the narratives that you put into your books, Jason, the fiction that you put in there as well, or the autobiography or things like that. If you're writing a poem, all of these have different audiences, first of all, but they also have just a different idiom, a different natural style that should accompany them, and that should be exploited, I think, to the fullest by us. So it's not a question of simply, deciding how we're going to use language, and then we have to use it always in that particular way. If you're giving a speech, it's a different scenario than if you're in a private conversation with a friend, right? These are different cases. You have to use language in a different way. I think there are some general rules that could be laid down. I mean, a few of them that I'm particularly keen on. One is the obscenities. I just think that we should really reduce the amount of obscenities that we commonly have in our language. This is not simply a moral question, although I think there are moral questions involved in it. But just from the point of view of our command of our language, obscenities become crutches to us. They stand in for real words and real concepts, and we just kind of crawl around using these words to mean any old thing. Which, first of all, is demeaning to the world in which we find ourselves because of the nature of obscenities, but it's also demeaning to our intellects and our ability to, really fully grasp what we're looking at. The other thing that I think speaks directly to what you were saying, Jason, is the question of what we presently call memes. And I'm very, very contrary. I'm thoroughly against this idea that language is a structure of memes. I think that is, again, demeaning of language. It is a demoting of language. Language is not just a spontaneous and absolutely unconscious reproduction, parrot-like, of things that have come into our heads. The moment it becomes that is the moment we become slaves to somebody else's worldview, Jason. Is exactly what you were saying. This is really very key. We have to use our language consciously, whatever level we're using it, whatever way, context we find ourselves. It has to be conscious, and that's the great benefit of this lexicon that you're working on, Jason, that it is conscious from start to finish. And so it really does command us to be more aware of the way that we use our language, of the meaning and the consequences of our words, and to clean up our act in many cases. I mean, a meme, what is a meme? A meme is something like this superfluous like that's crept into the American language, where we say like anything with like after it, which of course means that everything we're talking about is vague. We're not certain about what we're saying. Like, of course, means that it's like something. It's not quite something else. So it's a kind of approximation. It has this sort of approximative value to our language. That kind of a thing has to be cut out. We've got to get rid of the memes. We don't want memes, and we're not trying to even plant memes. We're trying to expand awareness. We're trying to expand consciousness, and I think this is the great value of your project, Jason.